Hey there, chatters. I'm Nat.
And I'm Kat, and welcome to the Crime Chat. I am your forensic femme fatale, Natalie, is your true crime connoisseur.
We're just two normal girls obsessed with dark crimes, evil minds, and occasionally the unknown.
Here is your disclaimer, chatters. The following crime chat contains adult content and descriptions of potentially violent scenarios today, so your listener discretion is advised.
You have been warned, but before we get into today's crime chat, Kat, what have you done?
So I watched Dracula Untold. And honest,
Lewis Evans. What's his name? What's his
Luke
name?
Evans. Luke Evans.
Luke Evans. Oh,
Yeah.
body.
So
Mm.
okay,
Mm,
I think I did see it. The
you did?
the fight scene at the end where he's with Dominic Cooper
Mm-hmm.
and Cooper's covered in like silver and there's silver all over the room and everything. Like I
Mm-hmm.
remember that scene unless I dreamt it, but I didn't remember anything else leading up to it. So I'm like maybe I only watched like just that part. I don't know why I would have, but I did watch it and I watched it all the way through
Mm-hmm.
and it was really good. I really
Yeah.
like it. Did you know there's a Dracula Untold Part 2?
No. What? Is it out?
Yes.
It's
I
out now?
didn't. It's out somewhere. It's out playing somewhere. I saw it when I was searching for where to stream Dracula Untold, like what main
What?
mainframe it was yeah, on.
Wait a minute.
So
Wait
there's
a
I
minute.
saw a thing for Dracula Untold 2, and I did go back and look and see where it was at, but do you see it?
Oh, it
Do you see?
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
2025 is what it says.
Oh God, girl. Yeah. I
Mm.
can't wait. Is he better be playing Dracula?
Oh,
He
oh,
is
oh, he is. I'm
by
looking
far
at the
the
poster for it right now.
okay, good. The Bram Stoker original,
Yes.
the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
closest adaptation to the
Adaptation. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
but Gary Oldman had such style
Mm-hmm.
and he had a big say in what he wore. Like those
Oh,
glasses that he had,
yeah, yeah.
that was not in like he added that to the outfit, like his costume.
Mm,
He's such an amazing actor.
he is. My one of my favorite roles, he's played so many roles I love,
Mm.
but one of my favorite roles is a movie, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy. It's a
Oh,
spy movie.
okay.
Fantastic. You got to watch it. It's long. It's like 3 hours long. It has a lot of information about the spy world in it. It's
Really?
really good. Yeah, it's really good. And then the other thing I started watching, so I
Mm.
was okay. I was listening to an episode of Wine and Crime. I was catching up with the gals,
Yes.
and they were doing a story about lead crimes. Lead, obviously, when we've talked about it before, how it was used in beauty, it was used in makeup, and that kind of thing, right? One of the stories I think it was Amanda told was about the two ships in the mid 1800s that were going to discover Antarctica from Britain. One
Mm.
ship was called the Terror, and the other ship was called the Andalusia and Andalasia, something like that.
Hmm.
Well, Lucy was like, "Is that the same? Is that the Terror TV show that was on Netflix?" And Amanda said, "Yes, it's based like loosely based on that." So I was like, "You know what? Terror, the Terror, I had on my watch list, and I just never got around to it. I think it came out in like 20, I want to say 2019,
Mm.
and I started watching it because
And
they told the actual story about what happened and those two ships got frozen. Like it was supposed to be a expedition. They were anticipating it lasting 2 to 3 years. Both
right.
ships disappeared. And it
Oh,
wasn't
wait,
until 2014 that one of the ships was actually found. And it went missing in like 1845.
is this on Netflix? Where is this? I
Yes.
can find. Okay.
I think it's a Netflix original. The Terror is really good.
Okay.
I think there's 10 episodes. I'm at like 5. So I'm like halfway through.
Oh, oh, so it's like a series?
It's a
It's not a
series. Yeah.
movie?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I gotta
Yeah.
watch it. Okay.
But the difference, and Lucy was explaining it because Lucy saw the show on Netflix. Amanda was just telling that the true story. But Lucy was saying that it's very similar, like based off of what actually happened, but there's a paranormal twist to it.
Ooh,
Like,
okay.
and I mean, it was pretty funny, but like, why would you name a ship the Terror, right?
Yeah.
And then the other
Yeah.
one was like Andalusia, and that meant darkness. You have terror and darkness, going out to venture Antarctica, their ships got stuck with the ice. Like when it froze over, they just had to like hold out and wait for spring or
Yeah.
summer or whatever for it to thaw out. Yeah. So, but it's starting to get super interesting.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna check it out.
Yeah.
All right.
It's,
I need a good series.
it's mid 1800s, so 19th
Mm,
century era. It's very interesting.
mm. All right.
That's kind of all I've done. School started back up again, so you know me, nerd. Been reading. I'm taking an American Lit class, and yeah,
You like it?
interesting.
Yeah.
So, okay, caveat, real quick. What I learned so far
Mhm.
is that the story of Pocahontas, it's an American literature class. So basically, how literature originated and developed in America as the New World, as people were founding it. So we're starting back in the 1600s.
Mhm.
If you would have asked me 30 years ago, I would have been like, boring. I don't want to know about this. So it is so interesting. And one of the most fascinating things that I found so far was Captain John Smith. And we all know
Mhm.
Pocahontas. Pocahontas, the Disney movie, came out in the mid 90s.
Right.
And you're like, oh, she saved him. You know, he's a hero and they, lived
Hmm.
happily ever after, whatever. People don't really know if it actually happened. So it was the event as it was described in his second book called
Yeah.
The General History of Virginia, Maryland, and the Summer Isles
Mm-hmm.
it came out in 1624. That's where he recounted this very passionate, very descriptive, very deep recollection of how Pocahontas defied her father, the chief of the Powhatans, and
Mm-hmm.
said, "Don't execute him." And she threw herself in front. So it comes out with this very like romantic, deep, like, wow, she did this for me. He was the only Englishman, only person who spoke English. He was the only non-Indian at the time.
Right.
But the thing is in 1608, John Smith was, once he was returned to the British people, he was told to go back to England and never come back to Virginia.
Okay.
Either on his way or once it gets back to England, he writes a book called like The True Story or something like that. And that was done in 1608. Now, this rescue from execution was in 1607, but he did not include it in his 1608 autobiography of his time in the New World and the discoveries that were made and the interactions with the natives.
Uh,
So people are very critical of either saying, one, it didn't happen, and then once he wrote his second book, which was like, you know, 14 years later, that he concocted it and like made it up, or he took an event such as like a commemoration type of event and twisted it into a like rescue. And I was like, oh, we don't know this. Like this type of stuff, like
don't.
we don't know about this. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? But how he a lot of it's American literature, but that was like one of the most fascinating stories that I have found so far. Did it
Right.
happen? Did it not? If he if it didn't happen, why make it up? If it did happen, why exclude it?
Right. Do you think that but do you think that maybe there was a love affair there and he was just trying to be respectful of her culture and
So I
her?
think there apparently like we've romanticized over time,
Yeah.
and as the
Oh, I
story has
see.
been told and retold and retold, we've romanticized it more than what it was. I don't think there was a relationship there.
No.
Mm-mm. No, just from
Oh,
what I've read. I haven't read his actual tale of it,
you mean
but
Disney's not telling the truth? What are you saying?
they base things on a quote unquote true story and they make
It's
money off of it.
the freaking mouse, I swear.
You gotta pay to see the mouse.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah, I was fascinated by that.
Mm.
The first book that I read for the course, weird. Like,
Weird. The name of the book
weird.
is weird.
No, it is
Oh,
weird.
oh, it is weird. Okay.
It's called Rabbit Run.
Dyke. Rabbit Run.
Rabbit Run. John Updike is the author.
Okay. Mm,
It's about becoming an adult and
interesting.
doing adult things and making adult decisions. And
Hmm.
Rabbit is his nickname, and all he does is run
Away from
from
responsibility.
wifely obligations, from knocking up his lover as he's married to another woman.
Mm.
His wife has some mental issues, likely postpartum, drowns their
Oh.
child. Like, there's a lot of
Oh,
tragedy in it, but
is
I'm
it
like,
true?
no, 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 this is all
Oh,
fiction.
okay.
Or
Okay.
else it'd be on the crime chat. Yeah. No, it's all fictional. It's a fictional story, but it's the lessons in it are like to become, you know, life lessons, learning how to
Yeah.
become an adult and the decisions that you have to make and responsibilities that you have in family ties. Like when you have one family child marries another family's child, so now you gain additional families, and those families are now combined, which same like for me, like I have a daughter-in-law and her family is subsequently now my family. So
Right.
learning how to kind of navigate that. But that, I mean, that's it, really. All I've been doing. How about you?
I haven't done much. I got sick. Right,
Ah,
I think I got
uh,
sick on New Year's Day is when I started feeling it. And then right after I was just like, okay, I'm feeling worse and I'm feeling worse and I'm feeling worse.
yeah.
And I'm better now. I'm a little nasally still, but
Apparently the norovirus is going around.
oh
Have you
boy.
seen, like, there's a huge outbreak in the US for the norovirus?
I
Oh
hope
no.
that's not what I had. Oh
I
my
hope not
Lord.
too. But
But
like I have
other,
a friend who was saying that she had it and it's like it's no joke. It's bad.
yeah, it's like the flu times 10.
Yeah. It's like
Okay.
a COVID flu neuro.
Mm. Other than that, I don't know if you saw the latest Bailey Sarian. She did not the latest, but she did cover on Dark History Disney.
Yes, I did. I did see
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
that
Yeah.
was cool.
Yeah.
I don't think she spoke about the stories that we went over, but
Hmm.
I just find it so interesting because Disney is just such an interesting company.
Yeah, and speaking of Disney, right? With the Pocahontas.
Such an interesting, I mean, they do, let's face it, yes, it's a huge employer in Florida, big
Oh
part
yeah.
of our economy, but there is something very sinister, afoot. So the other thing is, I don't know, I know you've watched Homeland.
Mm-mm. I've never
You've
seen
never
it.
watched, oh,
I
girl.
it's I need to. Yes, I know.
Oh my God, that is an
Yeah.
amazing show. Won awards, everything. Claire Danes
Yeah.
is the
Yep,
lead
I love Claire
actress.
Danes. Yep.
First of all, I remember when she first started in My So-Called Life, where she
Yes.
played like this teenager.
And
She
Jared Leto.
in
Jared
where?
Leto was in Jared Leto was in it.
Oh, was
That was
he?
where he started, yeah. He
Oh, I
was
didn't
her
know that.
love interest.
Okay. All
And
right.
you look back on it, like I've seen pictures and so he's been in show business now, I don't know, over 20 years.
Hmm.
But doing that, it's interesting that he started with acting, he went to music, and now he's back in acting again. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you're talented. When you're talented, you're talented.
Well,
Okay.
okay. There's a movie that he's in that's coming, and
Mhm.
I can't find it. I was like, oh, cool, but people were like ratting on him like big time, like saying,
Why?
oh, he's a horrible actor. Oh, Jared Leto's in it. I don't want to watch it. And I'm like, why? I pick. He's great.
Yeah. You know what? I think with him, he's got such a following that of course there's going to be people who don't like him, and nobody likes everybody.
Skeletor from He-Man. That's what it was.
There's a He-Man coming out. Are you kidding
Yes.
me?
Do you remember? Okay, the 80s?
She-Ra, He-Man, and She-Ra.
Yes, but it was He-Man where Dolph Lundgren was in it. Courtney Cox was in the movie.
No.
Oh my, oh, by the power of Grayskull. Masters of the Universe was the name of the movie.
I've never seen it. The 80s have the best movies. I'm sorry.
No. It,
Conan, the Destroyer. Okay.
but it was Dolph Lundgren. He played He-Man. Courtney Cox was also in it. And I don't really like I recognize some other people. There was a guy who was he was a little person, but he played like this wizard,
Okay.
and he's been in other things, but I don't know his name.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, I don't remember. But anyways, they're coming out with a new He-Man, but it's called Skeletor. So it's based on Jared Leto will play Skeletor.
Awesome. I gotta check
Yeah.
that out. All
Anyway,
right. I'm sure he'll
yeah.
do a good job. He's a good actor.
So you said, "Hey, Kat, out about the history of psychic."
Mm-hmm. That's right. Have you ever seen one? Have you ever gone to a psychic?
I've never gone to a psychic. I know
Okay.
people that have a special,
Gift.
yeah, like they have a little gift,
Okay.
but I've never actually gone to a psychic. Have you?
Oh God. Yes. And just
Have
so you
you?
know, let me tell you about my psychic story, and then I got to tell you what happened to me 2 days ago. So, okay.
Oh
So
gosh.
in New York, I was in my 20s, and my generations, my mother, my grandmother, all spoke about the psychic Raymond. Okay,
Yes.
they were like, "Yes, we've seen Raymond. It's tradition for you to
Yes.
see Raymond at one
Yeah.
point."
Yeah.
So I finally got the phone number because it was word of mouth. Got the phone number. I called. He only picks up the phone every other Thursday. You have to figure out which Thursday that is.
Oh geez.
Every other Thursday. He then sets up his appointments for every other Tuesday. Did it, got it. Took me about a couple of months to actually get there because he was booked up.
Sure.
Got to his house. So he lived in Greenwich Village. He lived on
Yeah.
Green Street. Okay.
Yeah.
Walking down now, Greenwich Village, down Green Street. This is the area where like all the appellate court judges live.
Hmm.
Like you got these
Is,
5-story brownstones.
is that like the artsy area too at one point? Like very like artsy and
Yes, like there's a
yeah.
section to Greenwich that's very
Yeah.
artsy and coffee shop-ish and
Yeah,
artsy
yeah,
and
yeah.
bands. And
Yeah.
then the residential area is just, I mean,
Yeah.
billionaires pushed
Yeah.
out the millionaires. He had a brownstone, so walked up and knocked on the door. And who answers the door is his houseman or houseboy. So
Okay.
a man answers the door half naked. He had
Hmm.
Speedos on. Okay.
Hmm.
Very, very handsome.
Was it summer?
It was Tuesday, and I
It was a Tuesday.
I didn't know. I don't think it was summer. I think it was fall because I had a jacket on because he took my jacket. So he opened the
In a
door in a
okay.
Speedo. But when I say Speedo, I mean probably like underwear looking Speedo.
Yeah.
Okay. But he must have been in his early 20s. Okay. He
Okay.
was obviously a model and all this stuff.
Hmm.
So I walk in, and this house was opulent. First of all, in the middle of it was an atrium. So, and it went
Oh,
shooting
geez.
through 5 floors to the ceiling.
Five
So when
floors?
you
Five?
walked
Oh
in
my God.
into the living room, you looked up and you're like, oh my God, that it went all the way up. And there was like this
Hi.
cage glass, and they had indoor plants growing.
Yeah.
So then he's like, have a seat. Let me get your jacket. And I'm like, okay, sat down, and it's just like half hour later, Raymond will see you now. So he walked me up this staircase, this beautiful, luxurious staircase,
Hmm.
went to the second floor, walked in Raymond's office. The office was completely clear. There was a huge room with like these wood paneling, like real old, like maybe 18th century type of
Yeah.
like the wood paneling look, not
Yeah.
necessarily Art Deco, but like the era before.
Yeah.
So walked in, and the only thing in this room was a mirrored desk. I mean, like a Liberace mirrored piano, like a mirrored desk. And
Wow.
it was everything was he outdid. He didn't just do, he outdid.
Mhm.
So he walked in, he had a
Raymond must
sig
be doing well.
Raymond's doing very well. So Raymond, he's about, I would say, in his 60s when I
Hmm.
met him. He had a cigarette on a stick, like one of those
Oh yeah.
1920s.
Cruella de Vil is what I picture.
Yes. So he's sitting there. He's like, have a seat, have a seat. And all he had on his desk was a pen and Post-its.
Mhm.
And he's looking at me, and he's like, okay, give me a second. And he starts on each Post-it, he's writing something, flipping it over, writing something, flipping it over. And he did it like 5 different times.
Okay.
He's like, okay, ask me your questions. And I'm like, okay. So, of course, at that point in my life, I'm like, am I gonna get married? Am I
Yeah.
gonna have kids? Da, da, da,
Yeah.
da, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I had to bring him a picture of friends and family.
Okay.
So and there was one person in the pictures that I did not trust. One person. But you
Mhm.
couldn't figure it out because it was a picture of everybody, like 10 different people in the
Like
picture,
a group picture.
like a group picture.
Yeah.
He answered everything like, okay. So I said, am I getting married? And he flipped over one thing and it said twice. Wasn't married at this point. I'm like, what? He's like, you're going to get married twice. And then he goes, ask me your next question. I said, have I met my husband yet? He goes, yes. And he also said, and he goes, and you also met your second husband too. I had no idea what he meant by then, but right. And then
Well, okay. I mean, technically,
I,
yes.
yes. So chatters, I married my husband twice, just so everybody
Yes.
knows.
One person twice.
Right, exactly. And then I asked him about kids. He said no. And then he said, for work, you're going to be really good at anything on the computer.
Yeah.
And then he looks at the picture and he goes, the third to the right is a barracuda. And
Oh.
it was the girl. I'm like, how did you know that? He's like, yeah. And everything. And we went into more detail, but everything he said was true. And it was
Mm-hmm.
fucking creepy as all hell. I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if he's still alive. Like, I don't know yet, but that man had at least 40 years of just, I mean, everybody knew he was that good.
I don't know exactly what your story is about, but my son sent me a link to a YouTube podcast, The Sean Ryan Show,
Mhm.
and he was interviewing a man named Skip Atwater, who was a retired Army intelligence officer who worked in psychic intelligence. Have you ever heard of
Oh,
that?
no, but I want to work there.
So I remember hearing about psychic intelligence and like learning about it a long
Hmm.
time ago, and it was always something that I was like super interested in,
Yeah.
and how the psychics like fought the war through intelligence. But
Hmm.
he was going on explaining it. Sorry, son. I haven't finished the whole thing. It was like an hour and a half long,
Okay.
but super interesting. And he sent me this right after you told me that you wanted me to do a background on the history of psychics.
Oh, maybe he
Is
sensed it. It's
is
crazy.
well, my son has a very special gift. He's one of those people that just knows. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I
He's
I
intuitive.
I can't explain it, nor do I have no reason to deny it. It's
Hmm.
just it is what it is.
He's sensitive. He's maybe clairvoyant or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
But so we just went out to dinner in this old house in Punta Gorda, and I went to put my glasses down on the table when the server came, and my glasses flew off the table past her,
Oh.
flew off the table. She picks them up, she brings them to me. She's like, just so you know, this place is haunted.
Ah,
So what did I do? I immediately took my phone out and put the box on, but nothing was
yes.
happening. And I felt really weird because everybody was eating and I didn't want to make them feel like I was recording them. So
Yeah.
couldn't really do it. But she was very honest. She goes, your glasses just flew because, yeah, she's like, it's haunt. They flew off the table. I placed them on the table and they went, phew, flew.
Did you though? No, I'm just kidding. I'm
I was
just kidding.
hungry. I was hangry.
Yeah.
So that's about it.
Okay. Well, that's crazy. I mean, so there's a lot of relation in paranormal with
Mm,
psychics, and
mm,
I'll kind of get into that, but a psychic is a person or persona who claims to use powers rooted in parapsychology, such as extrasensory perception or ESP,
mm.
to identify information hidden from the normal senses, particularly involving telepathy or clairvoyance, or who performs an act that are apparently inexplicable by natural laws, such as psychokinesis or teleportation. Now, although many people believe in psychic abilities, the scientific consensus is that there's no proof of the existence of such powers and describes the practice as a pseudoscience. I mean, I just had a conversation with somebody about this today. I think it's
Mm.
possible.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
I have no reason to say it's not.
Hmm.
Why not? Why wouldn't it be possible for somebody to be able to have an experience on a different, not level, but like a different realm, or be able to have a certain capability to talk to the dead, to talk to or to influence or to tell you about your future. Like, who's to say that? Who am I to say that you can't do that? No.
Right. Right.
If you
Exactly.
believe you can, right?
Right.
Well, psychics encompass people in a variety of roles. Some are theatrical performers, such as stage magicians, who use various techniques, like, okay, I had to spell this word out, such as prestidigitation.
Indignation. What is that?
Prestidigitation.
What is
Prestidigitation.
what is that?
Alexa, what's prestidigitation?
According to an Alexa answer certificate, prestidigitation refers to the sleight of hand that is part of many magic tricks.
Oh,
Oh,
the sleight of the hand. Alexa, stop.
okay.
Yeah, so like, I'm gonna pull out the rabbit from the hat
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of thing. So prestidigitation, cold reading or hot reading, to produce an appearance of such abilities for entertainment purposes. So think Houdini
Hmm.
kind of thing, right?
Right.
A large industry and network exists whereby people advertise as psychics, provide advice and counsel to clients. Psychic powers are asserted by psychic detectives and in practices such as psychic archaeology and even psychic surgery. And
Mhm.
in addition to that, psychic intelligence.
Psychic surgery. Is that what you just said? Psychic.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
boy.
Critics attribute psychic powers to intentional trickery or to self-delusion. In
Hmm.
1988, the U.S. National Academy of Sciences gave a report on the subject and concluded there is, quote, no scientific justification from research conducted over a period of 130 years for the existence of parapsychological phenomena, end quote. There's a lot of things that can't be explained by science.
Right. Yes.
Doesn't mean
True.
it's not true.
True.
A study attempted to repeat recently reported parapsychological experiments that appear to support the existence of precognition. Attempts to repeat the results, which involved performance on a memory test to ascertain if post test information would affect it, quote, failed to produce significant effects, end quote, and thus, quote, do not support the existence of a psychic ability, quote, end quote, of this kind. Psychics are sometimes featured in science fiction and fantasy fiction. Examples of fiction featuring character with psychic powers include the Star Wars franchise, which
Hmm.
features May the Force be with you, Luke.
Right.
Feel the Force. Beings who can see into the future and more objects telekinetically, along with Dungeons and Dragons,
Mhm.
and some of the works of Stephen King, amongst many others. The Shining.
Oh, yes. They
Yeah.
shine.
The Shining. According to Britannica, Encyclopedia Britannica, the history of psychic phenomena can be traced back to four things. First, spiritualism. The spiritualist movement began in 1848 after a series of mysterious events at a farmhouse in Hydesville, New York. The movement led to the development of psychic research to study claims made by mediums.
Sounds like a crime chat.
That's exactly what I thought.
Mhm.
Second, parapsychological societies. The Society for Psychical Research was founded in London in 1882, and a similar society was founded in the United States 6 years later, which would have been 1888, which would have been also the year of Jack the Ripper. Side
Oh,
note.
wow.
Third, ancient Mesopotamia. The earliest records of psychic-like activities date back to ancient Mesopotamia around 4000 BCE. Priests and priestesses would interpret dreams and omens as messages from God.
Yeah, I did a study on them when I was in college,
Mhm.
and it's crazy what they were, their science and like even their sports. Like they had basketball.
I fully believe dreams mean something. I don't
Me too.
always, 99% of the times, I have no fucking idea what it means. I think they mean something in either re-experiencing something that has already happened, whether it was in your life, previous life, or whatever,
Hmm.
or it is a premonition on something to come in the future. I just told you off camera about two of my dreams, and I hope one of those come true. So, in fourth, J.B. Ryan, an American parapsychologist. J.B. Ryan co founded the Parapsychology Laboratory at Duke University in 1930. He conducted about 90,000 experiments and coined the term extrasensorial perception,
Wow.
ESP. Yeah,
90
that's pretty
dozen
cool.
experiments. That's a lot. That's a
Yeah.
lot to come to that conclusion. So there's something there.
So
Sorry.
it's been almost 100 years since there was this parapsychology study.
Hmm.
We're almost at a century.
Yeah.
So another thing is psychometry. It's a psychic ability that involves using extrasensory perception to gain information about an object's history, process whereby facts or impressions about a person or thing are received through contact with an object associated with the subject of that impression. So you bring something personal to a psychic, and they'll tell you where that object came from or the energies that are surrounding that object.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Rings, photographs, and similar tokens are used, but sometimes the physical presence of a person may bring about images or visions in the psychometrist's mind that correspond to real facts,
Hmm.
sometimes still in the future, in the life of the subject.
Hmm.
Like you were just saying when you went.
Okay, so another point that I forgot to tell you, I asked him about his desk and why it was mirrored. You know what
Yeah.
his response to me was? He said that I don't look the dead in the face. I look at them through the mirror.
Wow.
So he sees everything in his
Yeah.
desk, and but he
Yeah.
never like goes directly. I'm like, interesting.
So
But
my brother sent me a TikTok recently
right,
that was this lady trying to understand how the matrix happens, like in happening in real life. And she explained a situation that she went through about when she went to a thrift store. Her daughter found some used, very well worn Elsa shoes, was like, Mom, I want them, Mom, I want them. And she's like, okay, okay, okay. Right. So they get home and she puts them with her like her dresses, like you can play dress up, all her dress up stuff. The next morning comes down and those same shoes are by the front door, which is where they keep all their shoes.
mhm,
And then she's like, "Oh, my daughter must have just got excited that the shoes are now down by the door where all the other shoes go." She picked them up, went to take them back to the dress up with all her dress up stuff, and there was a pair of shoes already in there. There was two pairs of shoes. Same exact pair of shoes with the same exact wearing and like
right.
wornness about it. Like she's like, I bought one pair of shoes. Like, where did this other pair of shoes come from? They just appeared. And so she's like, somebody try to explain this to me. How is this possible?
Right. Right. The
It was like,
Matrix.
yes. So
Where
she's
all
right.
those missing, where all the missing socks go and from the dryer. They're in the Matrix.
Exactly. So weird. Like, she's like, I'm really trying to wrap my brain around this and make it logical, but I can't.
Right. That's
Shit
crazy.
happens, and that
Yeah.
is crazy. Yeah. So, a degree of lowered consciousness, that is a state sometimes approaching a trance, is thought to improve psychometric readings.
Mhm.
Psychometric visions are usually too haphazard to be much of a practical value. The Parapsychological Institute of Rustijevingjikkatjtur, it's in the Netherlands, University in the Netherlands, was one of the first to perform experiments using psychometry in finding lost persons or things and in solving crimes. I think that's totally like possible. We've talked about
Mhm.
it a couple times before, like police departments who are like, I don't know, like we're lost, we don't know what else to do, and they
Yeah.
get the advice of a psychic, and or a psychic reaches out to them and says the body is in blah. Like
Right.
we didn't know there's a dead person. Right now they're only missing. And the psychic was like, no, they're dead. And this is the
Uh,
area that they're in.
right.
Yeah. So the 20th century marked a significant turning point for psychic readings. With the advent of new technologies and the media, psychic phenomenon became more accessible and commercialized. The rise of the telephone and later the internet followed psychics to reach a global audience. You remember the 1-800 like psychic telephone lines?
$4 a minute.
Or 1-900.
3.99
It was when
a
we had
minute.
900. Had the 900 prefix when you had to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
1-800
Yeah.
is toll free, but we used to have a 1-900, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where you had either psychics or dirty talk.
Yes.
You had sex
Yes.
talkers.
Mm-hmm.
One of the most influential psychics of this era was Edgar Casey, known as the Sleeping Prophet. Casey
Okay.
conducted thousands of readings while in a trance state, offering insights on everything from health to past lives.
Mm-hmm.
His work laid the foundation for modern holistic health practices and alternative medicine. The later half of the century saw a proliferation of psychic hotlines, television shows, psychic fairs. Is there a psychic con, like a psycon?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I would
because there's
go
a
though.
there's a con for everything. There's a Comic Con, there's
Hmm.
Crime Con, there's
Mm.
all cons. I'm wondering, there's probably is a psychon. Pop culture embraced psychics with features like Jean Dixon and Sylvia Brown becoming household names. These psychics often claim to have foreseen major events, adding to their mystique and appeal. Today, psychic readings have fully embraced the digital age. The internet has transformed how psychics connect with their clients, offering readings via chat, email, and video calls.
Mhm.
Websites and apps dedicated to psychic services have made it easier than ever to seek guidance from comfort in your own home. Thank you, COVID.
Yeah. Yes.
Moreover, social media platforms have given psychics a new way to reach audiences, live streaming, interactive. So, speaking of live streaming, like every now and I don't follow this person, but you know how
Hmm.
sometimes when you open up TikTok, you get the first thing you get is whoever's live?
Yeah.
It's always a psychic.
Is it really?
I don't follow that person, but it's like that first live that I go to is always a psychic. And I'm like, what are you trying to tell me? Live streaming and interaction sessions allow psychics to demonstrate their abilities and build a following. This accessibility has also led to greater transparency, as psychics are now subject to online reviews and
Oh,
ratings.
oh. Keep it honest.
Yes. I know people are evil. People
They
will, like,
are.
if they do something out of spite and didn't like their reading or whatever, they'll go on there and be like, y'all fucked up.
Don't read the comment section. Exactly.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people will like thrive off of their ratings.
Hmm.
We've had a couple of ratings, very few, I think two,
Hmm. Hmm.
two ratings. I mean, you can rate us chatters, it's fine.
Yep.
But okay, so as a teacher, as an online adjunct professor, there's a website called rateyourprofessor.com. And your
Okay.
professor gets these, the chili, like the chili peppers, you get chili
Yeah.
marks.
Okay.
5 chili, like it's a 5 star,
Hmm.
or one, is the lowest that you can get. Can you guess where I'm at?
5. Of course.
Like 2.
What?
Because
No.
people don't like the fact that I correct their grammar. And they're like, she's a grammar Nazi. Literally, one of them said, she's a grammar Nazi.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, I'm sorry. I want you to be able to articulate yourself in a paper or I don't know, police
Hmm.
report that you present to a judge. I'm
Right.
sorry. They just
Right.
don't like the fact that I call them out on their bullshit. So
They don't like criticism.
they don't like criticism.
No.
Despite technological advances, traditional methods like tarot readings, astrology, and palmistry do remain popular. These practices have been adapted into digital forums, making it accessible to a broader audience. For instance, online tarot readings can now be done via specialized software, ensuring the card's randomness and authenticity, which
Mm.
I get. Like, I've seen some of those too. Like, this is your card, and you want to
Yeah.
be able to keep it. And the other thing that comes to mind is there was one season of American Horror Story, and
Hmm.
it was God, I can't remember which one it was.
There's a bunch like that. But wait, there's one they did in New York. The New York one. It was like 1980 or something.
That might have been it.
It was about the gay community.
Yes. Yeah, it was. It was American Horror Story NYC. Yes.
Hmm?
It was the one that came out right before Delicate. Did you
Okay.
watch Delicate?
No.
You need to watch Delicate.
No.
Yes. And part of it, like they go to the psychic and it was like death card after death card after death card.
Oh boy.
And of
Oh
course, the
boy.
person like got pissed or whatever and walked out, came back, death card, death card, death card.
Oh
And I
my
was like,
God.
God, I'd be so terrified.
Mm-hmm.
And then he died. So, in recent years, advancements in neuroscience and psychology have offered new perspectives on psychic phenomena. Some researchers suggest that what is often perceived as a psychic ability may be attributed to a heightened intuition. Okay, what's the fucking difference?
Right.
Pattern recognition or subconscious processing. Again, what's the difference?
Mm-hmm.
These insights have opened up new avenues for understanding and exploring the human mind's potential.
Mm.
As we move further into the 21st century, the future of psychic readings appears to be a blend of tradition and innovation. As scientific research progresses, there may be new discoveries that further bridge the gap between skepticism and belief. Understanding the underlying mechanisms of psychic phenomena could lead to more acceptance and integration of these practices into mainstream culture. So, I hope that sets you up.
It does.
Are you going to blow my mind?
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I think it's pretty good. It's an interesting story.
Yeah.
And it's from my old neck of the woods. So
New York City?
yes and no. Yes and no.
Mm.
Today, we are going to talk about the psychic from New Jersey.
Oh, that's my neck of the woods.
That's your neck of the
my
woods.
old neck of the woods. New Jersey.
In a quiet suburb of Staten Island, a 14-year-old girl with dreams of becoming an artist disappeared without a trace. Susan Jacobson's story is one of heartbreak, mystery, and ultimately justice, delivered decades too late.
Oh, posthumously then.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the spring of 1960, Henry Jacobson, a skilled carpenter, married Margaret Lawson, a gentle, devoted homemaker. The couple had dreams of raising a family in Staten Island, Shaolin, where they both grew up.
Yeah.
On February 14th, 1962, they welcomed their first child.
Oh,
Susan
Valentine's Day.
Oh, I just made that connection. That's
Ah.
right.
And
Aw.
speaking of Valentine's Day, our next re-release is going to be the Valentine's Day murders. Next episode. Anyway,
That's right.
it's a premonition.
They welcomed their first child, Susan Ann Jacobson. 3 years later, the Jacobsons welcomed another child, Tommy. Such Staten Island names.
I was going to say that's
Tommy.
like the 1960s names.
Yes.
I got a Frankie, a Marky, a Jimmy, a Jeff.
So as a child, Susan was artistic and imaginative. She loved drawing pictures. She loved animals. She loved flowers. She often spent her times like creating stories and then like drawing illustrations that go along with her
artistic.
stories. Yeah. Susan attended Willowbrook Middle School and know that school. Didn't attend that, but know it.
Oh, really?
And later she attended Staten Island High School. Not too familiar with that. I think they closed up Staten Island High School, made it into something else. Or they merged it with McKee, or I don't know. I went to Egbert and then I went to Newdorp High School. So
Okay.
I don't know. So she had a close knit group of friends, including her best friend, Linda.
Okay, Linda. Listen, Linda.
Oh, that's right. That video. Linda. Listen, Linda.
Okay, Linda. Listen, Linda.
Yeah, that kid is adorable.
I know.
Linda once said, "We did everything together. Sleepovers, shopping trips, you name it." Susan was shy at first, but once you got to know her, she was hilarious and so kind. She made everyone feel special. Love her. In the summer of 1975, Susan met Dempsey Hawkins, a 16-year-old from the same neighborhood. Dempsey was a charming, soft-spoken, and the two quickly started dating. Dempsey David Hawkins was born October 30th, 1958 in London, England.
Oh, that's why his name was Dempsey. Okay. I wasn't getting the connection.
Is that like a very English name? Because I've had a friend named Dempsey in Staten Island. It wasn't him.
Yeah.
Not him.
Not him.
But a girl named Dempsey was, I had a friend.
Oh, it was a girl Dempsey.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had a friend in high school whose name was Charlie. The names like that always, like, I think it's so cool. Like, girls get what is now kind of a non-binary name, like non-sex name, I guess. Non-gender. That's it. Non-gender name.
Yes. So he was born to Richard and Eleanor Hawkins. In 1962, when Dempsey was 4 years old, the family relocated to Staten Island and settled in a quiet neighborhood of Westerly, my neighborhood. I lived in Westerly. Vinny grew up in Westerly. Westerly is a small section. I went to my husband. I'm like, do you know Dempsey Hawkins? Like, do you? Unfortunately, this was when he was a kid because Vinny was born in 1962. So he's like, no, I don't remember, but it sounds horrible. But Westerly is a beautiful section of Staten Island. Every street is canopied with oaks. Like it is very Very beautiful. Miss it. I do miss it. They moved into a small 2-bedroom home on the street with oak trees that canopied the street, and they looked for a better life in America. The Hawkins family appeared ordinary on the surface. Richard Hawkins, Dempsey's father, worked long hours in a nearby factory. However, he was also a demanding man, and he expected perfection in all things,
Yeah.
especially his young son, Dempsey.
Mm-hmm.
Eleanor Hawkins, Dempsey's mother, worked at a school as a secretary. She was quiet and reserved, often deferring to her husband's strict rules. She didn't have an opinion.
As was the time.
Yeah.
As was
What,
the time.
you know what? When people say, that's what annoys me when people say, like, I'm Switzerland. I'm like, what does that mean? What does that mean? Switzerland can't be Switzerland anymore. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Everybody's got an opinion. So Richard was tough, no doubt. Okay. He was definitely hard on Dempsey. He didn't smile much. And when he spoke to Dempsey, it was usually to criticize him and tell him what he did wrong. Eleanor was really nice. She was nice to her family. She was nice to her son, but she kind of kept to herself, and she really didn't correct the father's behavior. And
that's not her place to.
Right. But you know what? She also didn't have many friends. Like, she didn't have other moms that spoke to her. Because you know what? An American Staten Island woman would be like, hell fucking no. Your husband speaks to you that way. No,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
We have a dump. You realize we have a dump right now. It's joking. But anyway. So Dempsey was the only child. His parents placed all their hopes and all their pressures on him. Richard wanted Dempsey to be strong, successful, and obedient. As a child, Dempsey was quiet and reserved. He spent most of his time reading or building model airplanes in his bedroom. He didn't have many friends, and the few that he did have described him as being polite but distant. That Dempsey wasn't like the other kids. He'd watch, but he wouldn't join in. So, like, he didn't know how to connect with people. So, you know, he was a little...
He was an observer.
He was an observer. He was a people watcher. He
Mm-hmm.
watched. As Dempsey grew older, his isolation deepened. At school, he struggled academically and socially. Teachers described him as being polite, but disengaged, often zoning out in classes. Classmates called him weird, which didn't help.
He had an accent. So he's probably outcasted
What
with
accent?
his accent. An English
What?
accent. English accent.
I don't think so. He was 4 when he came over.
Well,
He's
so when
16
I
now.
lived, yeah, maybe they might have lost it. I would say when I lived in England, so my oldest was 14 months when we moved there, and he was just about to turn 4 when we moved back, and he had an accent. But of course, maybe by the time he was a teenager, of course, he doesn't have it anymore.
Yeah. He definitely has that Staten Island dialect.
Okay.
But they called him weird because he was quiet, but he had this like uncomfortable stare. He would like just look at you, just zone in on you. Yeah. By the age of 14, Dempsey's struggles with self-esteem became more apparent. His father's constant criticism left him feeling like he could never measure up.
Yeah.
That's terrible. It's a terrible way to live.
I understand that dynamic.
Yes.
Yeah.
We all do. I think
Yeah.
a lot of people who were raised in the 60s, 70s, 80s gets it in a way.
I would say not so much young adults today.
No. They have too much attention.
Too many participation ribbons.
Too many. And coddling. We did not come from an era of coddling.
Oh God, no.
We were responsible.
You were kicked out of the house until it was dark.
Yeah.
Go fend for yourself. No lunch. Water you got was from the hose out back.
I remember if you fell and started to cry, the adult in the room would be like, oh my God, you broke the floor. Oh my God, you broke the wall. And I'm like, that's hilarious. But then somebody told me later on in life, they're like, oh my God, you're gaslighting the kid. I'm like, no, that's not. Okay, yes, maybe it's like a form of gaslighting somebody. But you know what? It's showing them that don't take yourself so serious. Yeah. It's a benign one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dempsey's behavior began to unsettle those around him. Neighbors recalled seeing him linger in the park, watching other kids play, but never joining in. He had a habit, like I said before, of staring too long, making people feel very uncomfortable.
Yes.
A neighbor once said, I'd see him sitting on the swings, not moving, just watching everyone. It wasn't normal. He wasn't mean or anything, but there was something off. There were also moments of unexplained anger. Classmates recalled him snapping over small things, like someone bumping into him in the hallway. He'd go from being quiet to furious
Oh,
instantly. He'd just be
okay.
triggered.
Yeah.
Dempsey's few friendships didn't last long. He had trouble opening up and often withdrew when people tried to get close to him. By the time he was 15, he began seeking attention from girls.
Mm,
A neighbor said that he wasn't bad looking. He could be charming if he wished to be, if he wanted to be, but he was also possessive. Even with the girls that weren't his girlfriend or
mhm,
that he was dating, he didn't want their attention to go anywhere else. Like he
mhm.
wanted all the attention on him. When
Controlling. Yeah.
when Dempsey met Susan, she was only 13 years old and he was 16.
Mm.
The two lived a couple of blocks away and they crossed paths one day. Susan, with her kind heart and open personality, quickly caught Dempsey's attention. Susan thought he was sweet at first. He'd walk her home, he'd carry her books, he was always complimenting her drawings. But Linda, her best friend, she told Susan, he's too intense. He wanted to keep her all to himself.
Okay, Linda, I'll let you off the hook. Okay,
Yeah.
Linda.
Dempsey Sue became possessive, constantly asking Susan where she was and who she was with. He didn't like her hanging out with friends and often showed up at her house unannounced or when she was with her friends, maybe at a park or something.
I dated a
By the
guy like
early,
that.
I think we
I-
all have. It's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
By early 1976, Dempsey's behavior had become more troubling. He
Mhm.
hated feeling like he wasn't in control and grew increasingly frustrated when Susan didn't give him the attention he demanded. Susan's parents were wary of this relationship with Dempsey. While they wanted their daughter to be happy, they worried about Dempsey's possessiveness.
Mm.
Susan's brother stated in an interview, Dempsey was intense. He always wanted to know where Susan was, who she was with. It made my parents uneasy.
As it should. Yeah.
Despite their concerns, Susan assured her family that everything was fine, but beneath the surface, the relationship started to show cracks.
Mm.
On May 15th, 1976, Susan told her parents that she was going for a job interview and she left home around 10 a.m., promising to be back for dinner. When Susan did not come back home, her parents called the police immediately.
Mm-hmm.
Detective Cartwright was the lead, and they decided to start searching right away. They
Mm-hmm.
start interviewing neighbors, friends, anyone who may know where she's at. The community also rallied up, but the days turned into weeks and there was no sign of Susan.
Aw.
Enter in Dorothy Allison, a psychic from New Jersey.
Is that she our psychic heroic heroic psychic?
Yes.
Ah.
She is a self-proclaimed psychic from New Jersey. Born in 1924, Dorothy was a wife, a mother, a member of the local church. She gained national attention for her uncanny ability to describe crime scenes and local missing persons. Dorothy Allison claimed to have assisted law enforcement in 5,000 cases throughout her
Wow.
career,
Go girl.
enough to land her in the Guinness World Records.
Is she?
She is. She
She
absolutely is.
Good for you, Dorothy.
She was particularly known for her involvement in high-profile cases such as the Son of Sam murders in 1977,
Really? Wow.
where she provided a description of the killer, David Berkowitz, and predicted that he would be apprehended due to an unpaid parking ticket. Isn't that crazy?
Yes.
Additionally, she was involved in the Atlanta
Oh.
child murder investigation in
Wayne
1980s.
Williams? Yeah.
Although her contributions in that case did not lead to a resolution.
They did catch Wayne Williams, so maybe it was somebody else.
Okay, it says here, Dorothy Allison was the psychic who called in to help the Atlanta police investigate a series of child murders in 1980. However, the police said that Allison's assistance was limited to providing 42 possible names for the killer, which were not helpful. Many people considered her to be a fraud.
Okay. So she wasn't getting enough at the time to narrow it down,
Right.
but she still assisted. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was Wayne Williams.
despite her extensive involvement, the effectiveness and accuracy of her assistance have been subject to debate among law enforcement and
Sure.
skeptics.
Yeah.
The police told reporters later that Dorothy had helped police before, providing clues in several cases.
Mhm.
Some saw her as a miracle worker, others as a fraud, but no one can deny her
Mhm.
track record. Margaret Jacobson, Susan's mother, reached
Okay.
out to Dorothy in a desperate bid for answers, and Dorothy had some answers.
Wow.
Dorothy described in vivid images a shipyard, a rusted oil drum,
Mm.
the letters MAR in caps.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, these clues seemed cryptic.
Mhm.
And unfortunately, nothing ever came of it. Now, I'm not sure if the police actually
Like took her seriously, or
Yeah,
like,
I
yeah,
don't think they did. I don't think they did. I don't think they
yeah.
looked into like on Staten Island there are some abandoned shipyards and they are they are very scary. They are very,
Mm.
very scary. But I don't think they really pursued like any of what she was saying. So
Yeah.
it would be 2 years later when a couple of workers at a shipyard stumbled upon a 55-gallon oil drum.
Mm-hmm.
Inside were Susan's remains.
Oh,
Dorothy's vision had been chillingly accurate. Detective Cartwright stated, "When we found Susan, we revisited everything Dorothy had told us. Her description matched the scene perfectly. It was eerie how good
yeah.
she was."
Yeah.
They said about 50 yards away from the oil drum where they found the body, there was a building and they found a stone and carved in it were the letters MAR. Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that
So she
crazy?
had the oil drum, she had the shipyard, and she had the initials.
She was straight up, yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
The autopsy revealed that she had been strangled to death. Her boyfriend, Dempsey Hawkins, was arrested and confessed to the crime.
Oh, you bastard.
I know. When the news broke that Dempsey had been arrested for the murder of Susan, the Staten Island community was left reeling. For years, neighbors had searched alongside the family, clinging to the hope that Susan might still be alive.
Mm-hmm.
The discovery of her body, combined with the revelation of Dempsey's involvement, sent waves of shock and betrayal through the quiet streets. I don't know how quiet Staten Island is, but
I was
sure,
gonna say
okay.
Vinny doesn't remember this. He might have been too young
Yeah,
at the
definitely too
time.
young.
Yeah.
A neighbor told reporters, "I couldn't believe it. I mean, Dempsey, he was so polite. He used to mow my lawn and he used to carry groceries in for people. To think he could do something like this is horrifying."
Mm-hmm.
Another neighbor said, "I remember seeing him with Susan all the time. They looked like such a sweet couple. How does someone you know turn out to be a killer?"
Mm-hmm.
For those closest to Susan and her family, the betrayal cut even deeper. Many had known Dempsey since he was a boy, and some had even welcomed him into their homes. To learn that he had not only taken to Susan's life, but also spent years pretending to care about her disappearance was all too
Oh,
much
yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
bear. So Linda stated, "He came to the house after she went missing. He sat with us. He cried. How do you fake something like that? How do you sit there knowing what you did? It makes my skin crawl."
Yeah.
As the details of the crime came to light, the community learned just how calculated Dempsey had been. Investigators revealed that Dempsey had lured Susan to the abandoned shipyard under the guise of wanting to talk, only to strangle her out of a fit of rage, afterward concealing her body in an oil drum and returning home as if nothing had happened.
So they think that it
Now,
was predetermined.
jealousy. Why would you take her to a show? Why would
Yeah.
nobody wants to go there.
Premeditated. That's the word I was looking for.
Right.
So the police think it was premeditated.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So Detective Cartwright stated he acted like a grieving boyfriend. He told us he had no idea where she could be when he was interviewed, but behind it all, he was hiding the truth. He was cold. He was calculating. He had everybody fooled.
Mm.
In 1979, Dempsey Hawkins stood trial for the murder of 14-year-old Susan Jacobson. The trial took place in Richmond County, Staten Island, New York. After the jury found him guilty of second-degree murder, Hawkins was sentenced to 22 years to life in the state prison. During his incarceration, Hawkins became eligible for parole in 2000, but was denied release multiple times.
Mhm.
Now, In 2015, the New York Supreme Court Appellate Division ruled that the State Board of Parole had failed to consider his juvenile status at the time of the crime when evaluating his eligibility for parole.
Mm.
Following this ruling, Hawkins was granted a de novo parole hearing and was, I totally chopped that up, but we're just going to go with it, and eventually released in 2017 after serving 38 years in prison. As a part of his parole conditions, he was deported to the United Kingdom. There's England again, where he since resided. So, Susan Jacobson dreams were cut tragically short, but her story lives on as a reminder of the resilience of those who seek justice. Dorothy Allison's role in the case remains one of the most remarkable examples of psychic involvement in law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
Decades later, Susan Jacobson's murder remains a painful memory for those who lived through it.
Right.
It serves as a chilling reminder that monsters can hide in plain sight. Oh, we all know that.
Yeah.
And even the safest seeming communities are not immune to tragedy. May Susan Jacobs' story remind us to cherish those we love and to remain vigilant. Her light is taken too soon, but her memory endures in the hearts of those who knew her. So rest in peace, Susan.
Yes.
And that's my story.
Going back to the New York Supreme Court appellate failed or said that the court failed to recognize that he was a juvenile at the time.
Yeah.
I get that.
Yeah.
I don't get it for murder.
But he's second degree murder. Maybe if he was first degree murder, maybe that's a different story. But
the police were already saying that he was premeditating. Like he already had premeditation in it. Like, I don't know. I mean, maybe mental rehabilitation would have been better for if they are considering this him being a juvenile at the time.
Right.
I mean, he was 16. 16 to 18? Okay, prove to me where the brain growth is and how much one can comprehend when something is wrong, when they're doing something wrong. Like, show me that scientific proof that shows that you have to be 18 to receive life or death penalty, or, you know what I mean? But I get the juveniles that are like 10 and pick up daddy's gun.
Right.
And shoot their sister because they just wanted to see what it did, right?
Yeah.
Or if you can do the surrounding circumstances. For instance, my brother and I had a childhood friend that was shot. He was 16. Actually, he was a couple days before he turned 16 by a very new friend in their circle who was showing off his dad's gun, not knowing how to handle it. It went off and shot him in the heart. That was accidental.
God, that's terrible. Aww.
Absolutely. It's horrible. It's absolutely horrible. It was my brother's best friend growing up. And my brother was supposed to be at the house, but my mom said no because he was a new friend and she didn't know like the parents and stuff, right? So she's like, no, I don't think now is a good time, which thankfully, he didn't.
Right.
Or also I want to think that he might have had some common sense in him too. It would have been like, dude, don't take out guns,
Right.
But it was completely accidental. Like, I get that. Dempsey's, it was intentional. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was intentional. You had the forethought to kill this person out of jealousy, out of control, because it was somebody that you quote unquote loved. Right. And they weren't doing what you demanded for them to do. I don't agree with that part. I think it has to do with totality of circumstances. Yes, in addition to an age. But for this one, I think he deserved life.
Yeah.
It's my opinion.
Well, he was deported.
Well,
He's
yeah.
never coming back. Yeah, so that's my story.
Poor Susan.
Psychic from New Jersey.
And thank you, Linda.
Yeah, thank you, Linda.
Yeah,
thank you, Dorothy.
Yeah. Her light was taken, but she still shines, like you said.
Yes. And I know people put a lot of emphasis on the parents for some reason. I get it. Like maybe dad was hard on him. Mom was detached and correcting certain behaviors and just wanted to keep the peace. And
yeah.
But that doesn't, a lot of people have that backgrounds. A lot of people, a lot
Yeah.
of people from traditional households will say like mom was always a peacemaker. Dad was always like, a little bit more tyrant or whatever, Gestapo.
Or you have the other households where the mom was, while in her role,
Yeah.
was the one that wore the pants,
Mm.
and the dad was very submissive.
Yeah.
But you have the wrath of the mother
Yeah.
going
Oh
at
my God.
it.
Oh
Yes.
boy. All right. Well, because we're going to leave you hanging, chatter. For more information on this case, please check out After That Crime Chat, only available on Patreon.
And don't forget to follow us, Crime Chat with Nat and Cat, on all of our socials, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and X. See what we got going on.
Remember, Crime Chat with Nat and Cat, when you become a VIP chatter to our Patreon, you'll have access to bonus episodes, behind the scenes, bloopers, and free merch. And check out some merch in the works.
And be sure to check out our next episode. As a reminder, for the first Saturday of the month, we do skip a month. And for season 4, we are re-releasing some of our faves. And with it being February, the love and all things traditional, we are re-releasing our Valentine's Day Murders episode coming out on February 1st. So you don't want to miss it. Our next episode for season 4 will be My Story, coming out on February 8th. In honor of my husband, whose birthday is February 9th. I'm doing a story that he has requested.
Okay. Don't want to miss it. You do not want to miss it.
You don't want to miss it. We'll see you next time, chatters.
Bye.
Bye.